The next two seminars are very, very interesting. They're presentations on how we grow our business online, and we're going to get to very, very specific things. So if you've got any specific online questions about SEO and SEM, I encourage you to write them down and come up during the Q&A session and ask them. So our next presenter is Tracy Smith. Tracy Smith, in his role, has built an in-house performance marketing team and led the strategic development and launch of performance-based solutions online, including services such as search engine marketing, search engine optimization, and he has also implemented enhanced customer service reporting and introduced a new web analytics solution. And for small business owners, that's always a very, very important part. So welcome, Tracy, and come and educate us.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Good morning, everyone. As Andrew mentioned, my name is Tracy Smith, so Vice President of Performance Marketing and Go-to-Market. I have to admit that at the very beginning of this presentation, I started developing a bit of biography envy when it was presenting Leonard. I was expecting a 100-year-old guy to walk up here. But more seriously and more in line with the conversation, as most of you, it was the first time I actually heard Leonard speak. And I do have to say, it was very instructional, very interesting, and I do want to thank Leonard once again for taking the time to participate in this event with us. So please. So Leonard took what you might call an anthropological view of change. And I'm sort of going to narrow the funnel down and speak to you a little more specifically about what is changing in your environment, what it means for small, medium-sized businesses, and I'm going to drill down on value. How do you deliver value? Everyone in this room is obviously looking to get the most out of their investment dollars, so we'll speak about a few of those examples. More importantly and more globally, why is Yellowpages sponsoring this event? Why am I really here this morning? Well, it's essentially to engage and exchange with you. In the world that Leonard described, and the world that I will talk about in the next little bit, we simply believe that engaging more specifically with our customers, for you to engage more so with your customers, is increasingly important as a part of business. So on that note, what we're going to do is queue up a quick video to get going, and essentially, it's going to give you a sense of how our world is changing, how your world is changing. lots of information for sure in that short clip. Just before I continue, can everybody hear me well? I was told that the microphone was not so good. All good? Okay, so in this fast-changing world, in the world that we're talking about, are you being found? Do you exist? Is your business anywhere to be found on search engines, online directories, mobile devices? Are you being heard on the radio? This is the question. And so let me do a quick survey. How many of you here, as consumers, not as advertisers, as consumers, have looked for a business on your mobile phone, have tried to reach a business through an online search? Can I see a show of hands? Fair amount of you, a significant amount of you. Now, you probably notice, but mobile is fast growing. In essence, by 2014, there's going to be more internet usage through mobile devices than there currently is on PCs. This year alone, there was 1 billion mobile searches done on Google. And at Yellowpages, within a short period of time, less than 18 months, the volume of searches that we get has gone from 5% of mobile to north of 30%. So my point here is that 12 to 18 months ago, mobile was marginal at best. It is now a true and significant way for businesses to connect with consumers. Let me ask you another question, and Leonard spoke about Groupon in his presentation. How many of you have received an email from Deal of the Day, Groupon, Living Social, Twango? Can I see a show of hands again? So, hard to see perfectly, but let's call it half of the audience, essentially. How many of you have actually purchased one of those deals? So, obviously some melt, but still a significant amount. Again, the reason I want to speak about this one specifically is that, like mobile, 12 months ago, this was marginal. This was not really a way that businesses marketed themselves and drew customers. And in the last 12 months, it has become very, very significant. The other reason I wanted to talk about these two examples specifically is that you experienced them as consumers. The question was, have you used this? And what that allows you to do is get a sense of, how can I use these in my own business needs? So it gives you a real sense of what is out there and what you can potentially use as a small and medium-sized business. Now again, in the fast-changing world that we are currently in, what are Canadian small, medium-sized businesses doing? What are you doing? So in a recent survey, it was interesting for us to find out that pretty much all of the things we have been talking about this morning, you guys are already engaged in or looking to engage in. So on the online side, websites are definitely leading the charge. And the next couple of years, 75% of small, medium-sized businesses will have a website. One would argue, it seems kind of obvious. The cliche, which nevertheless is true, is that this is the doorway to the internet. It is also more or less the equivalent of what a business card was 20 or 30 years ago. So it's becoming pretty much a table stake. Online directories, still very much an important component of the media mix, of the marketing mix. Very likely because it is so close to the purchasing decision. The buyer's intent when he uses this type of media is very, very determined, and they are looking to find somebody and actually purchase. The combined search marketing, if you will, SEO and SEM, are garnering more and more interest. And interestingly, I would say that SEO seems to be becoming a bit of the golden child in search marketing. It's getting more and more interest from small and medium-sized businesses. And obviously, I've skipped social, which is the up-and-comer. Social is ill-defined, to be perfectly honest. So it's probably in some form or fashion maybe overrepresented here, because as Leonard was saying, what is social? If I've answered somebody through Twitter, if I've posted something on Facebook, is that considered social? So still very much in its formative years, but the intent is clear. So why is this important for you as small, medium-sized businesses? Well, I think the intent here is to give you a sense of what your peers and what your competition is looking at doing. So if you look across this room, undoubtedly, there is somebody here sitting that you're looking at who's a competitor or that will potentially become a competitor. If you're thinking to yourself as a restaurant owner who has a chain of Italian restaurants, if you will, you know what? I got a bad review on a directory, on a restaurant site, and you know what? I don't have time to deal with this. If this guy's not happy, he doesn't like the service at my place, so be it, man. Stay home. Well, just look at that person who's potentially a competitor or going to be your competitor, and imagine that they're going to deal with it in a very different fashion. What they're going to do is actually answer this. They're going to engage with this unsatisfied customer and say, you know what, our apologies. I truly believe that this is an isolated event. I would like for you to come back to our restaurant, and you know what, bring 2 of your friends. I'm going to provide you guys a 15% discount. And what they will effectively do is turn an unsatisfied customer into an evangelist, somebody who will speak about the business and actually flaunt its merits. So that's the type of environment that we currently live in. That's the type of engagement that obviously businesses have to consider. But what is right for you? So what I've just talked about is what businesses on average is doing. And the answer of what is right for you individually is much more complicated. The reality is, you can't do everything. There are very few small, medium-sized businesses that have the ability to do every single thing in marketing. So you have budget, you have skill sets, you have time, and you have to work within those very real constraints. In that world, you very much have to figure out, what do I want to accomplish? Am I trying to really work my brand, get it out there, make sure it associates to a specific group of people? What are my target customers? Is my bread and butter about driving new people into my store? Is it about harnessing the existing client base, making sure they're very loyal, they're coming back, they're spending more with me? Am I looking to grow sales as a whole? Or am I looking to grow a specific service line, a specific product line? Am I faced with seasonality, with a cyclical business? Are there basically some highs and lows over the year when I do business? So if I take this last case, the one of seasonality, if you will, perhaps that a business will look at something like a search engine marketing campaign and say, you know what, I know that, for the winter period, I need to drive more business because it will simply not come naturally. So for 3 months, I'm going to invest more money in my search engine marketing campaign and get more leads from search engines. They may turn to deal of the day, to a group buy and say, it's a great opportunity for me at this point in time, since there is less business coming in, to actually put a deal out there and see if I can get some new customers that obviously I'm hoping will become repeat customers. On the flip side, if I'm an up-and-coming bar or club located in the downtown Toronto area, and what I'm really trying to accomplish is, create a vibe, a sense, a community around what I am, well, perhaps in this instance, I'll want to create a Facebook page. I'll want to make sure that, some key influencers, people who are, known for their clubbing prowess and that are systematically out there, are part of that they're spreading it to their own networks. I may also decide that I want to do some very targeted banner advertisings, so get my site out there on some of the hip sites, of the cool sites, where essentially I think that the crowd that I want to draw will be there. So different circumstances, different answers. And as I said, while it would be interesting to do it all, it's oftentimes very difficult to do so because of limited time, limited resources. Now, there's no way that within the time we have, we can give a sense to everybody about what the right marketing plan for each and every one is in this room. But there is one very fundamental thing that I am certain every business here is concerned about. Whether you're a small business, medium-sized business, service business, B2B business, everybody's looking to drive value. Everybody wants to have significant, real, cost-efficient leads to their business and get a sense that they're actually getting their money's worth. That is one thing that is core, I suspect, to everybody in this room. So about 100 years ago, one of the fathers of modern-day marketing essentially said, and it's not a literal quote, but he said, you know, I know that 50% of my marketing dollars aren't working for me. I just don't know what 50%. That was 100 years ago, and unfortunately, it still is too much the case in this day and age. When we speak and ask of our advertiser base what their qualms are, there are still too many small, medium-sized businesses across Canada, I think it's 60% and above, that feel that one of the major qualms is, I just don't know what I'm getting for my money. And you know what? That doesn't feel good. So in the next part of this presentation, I'm going to get a little more granular and simply provide you with a few examples of how some of the products we've talked about, not comprehensive, I'm not going to split it out to every single product, but how they deliver value and how you can make sure that you understand what you're getting for your money. So I will actually start off, give me a second. I'll actually start off talking to you about search marketing. So I'm not going to get into too much detail about this. Bill Barnes, who's up right after me, is actually going to spend most of his presentation giving tips on how this works. But I think before I speak about campaigns and the results, it's pretty important for for everybody in the room to understand the fundamentals. So search marketing is essentially about your business being prominent on major search engines such as Google, Yahoo, Bing, and the elephant in the room is very definitely Google. If we talk about SEM more specifically, search engine marketing is about being present in the sponsored results. So at the top of the page and on the right-hand side of the page. SEM is often akin to instant gratification. The beauty of this is you can buy your way in. You can bid on keywords and get rapid positioning. But make no mistake, the relevancy, the content, the quality of your ad is critical. You can buy yourself in for a certain period of time, but if Google does not feel you're relevant, you're not going to stay there, and it's just going to get costlier and costlier. But again, a notion of instant gratification, I can get in quickly. Search engine optimization is essentially about being present on the rest of the page. It's about what we call organic results. And this is very much about relevancy and content. You have to be relevant to be strong in search engine optimization results. And the algorithm is moving constantly. It's not an easy job, let's be honest. And for those of you who are Google fanatics and track the changes in the algorithm, it's tough to follow. There's just a lot going on. But there are a few basic premises, right? And two things that you can work on when you're doing an SEO campaign is what we typically call on-page changes and off-page changes, if I was to break it down in two very simple buckets. So on-page is about what you do on your website, how you structure it, how you make sure it's easy to find, how good is the content. Whereas the off-page changes are essentially the quality of the links that you build to your website, authoritative sites, articles that cite your line of business, and so all the value that you can drive in the outside network, if you will. And I often compare search engine optimization to riding a bike. Imagine you're on a bike, but at the beginning of what is a bit of a slope, and you're there, you have no momentum, and you need to get going. So just imagine that the bike is your website. It's your on-page changes. If it's in order, everything will go well. You'll be able to get underway pretty easily. If you have a warped wheel, call that bad content, bad structure of your site. It's just more difficult to get going. Imagine that the power, the thrust that you apply to the pedals, your momentum, is your link building. This is what gives you the juice to really get going. So you start going, always a little tougher at the beginning. You eventually get over that hump, and you're cruising, you're sailing, you're feeling good about it, much easier, and here I am. But what happens if you stop pedaling? If you stop pedaling, you will inevitably lose speed and stop. So the two things I'm trying to allude to here is that SEO, as opposed to SEM, takes a little longer to start reaping the results. I'm not talking years here, just to be clear, I'm talking months, but it's still longer to reap those results. And in that instance, the other element that I want to highlight is that it's a bit of a myth to say that it's a one-time event. If you stop making sure you're getting those quality links, the world where you could just do SEO once and stop, those days are over. You will inevitably lose momentum. So let's talk about a few campaigns. And this is very much an overview, just to give you a sense of value and how you can look at how SEM drives value. So in this particular example, it's a 12-month campaign, $500 a month for a taxi and limousine company. So over a period of essentially a year, they receive 380 leads per month. So a lead for the intent of this conversation is what we're calling a click, a call, or an email. More importantly, you would argue, and this is probably intuitive to everybody sitting in this room, these people are looking to get calls. They want people calling in and asking for that limo service. And so they're receiving about 100 calls per month. So that's $5 a lead. Is that good, or is that not good? Well, it all lies in, obviously, what the other marketing alternatives are for this company, what the average value of a ride is. If the average value of a ride is $50, $60, it's much different than if the average value of a taxi ride is $20. But what we know for sure is that in this case, it is of great value to the advertiser, and they want to generate more leads on this basis, and hence are investing more in the campaign. Because outside of the cost per call, there's obviously the volume of leads. One could very easily imagine that a limo and taxi company can handle more than 100 calls per month. They're certainly getting calls from other online initiatives, from directory initiatives, from repeat customers. But in this instance, they felt that the ROI, the return on investment, warranted more money in this media particularly. So very trackable and very easy for them to get a sense of return on investment. If we turn our attention to a search engine optimization campaign for a moving company, coast to coast, they move people, from Vancouver to Montreal. They basically did not exist online. They were ranked 65 and less on every major search engine. And after launching a campaign, $650 a month, essentially, within 3 to 5 months, they moved from the 65th place to the 9th position on Google and to the 5th position on Yahoo and Bing. So everybody who's used Google or a search engine understands that, past the first page, for all intent and purpose, you do not exist. So when you're ranked 5th or 9th, you're in the sweet spot. You are getting traffic. But if I was to be perfectly clear here with respect to measuring return on investment, this is still one step short. For this to be even better, we need to drive traffic and show traffic. And so that's the type of thing that we need to build into our SEO reporting. Very rapidly, online directories. I suspect that some of you here have this product. They are still very, very germane to driving leads. And the reality is, with products such as sponsored placement, you can make sure that you are one of very few advertisers that gets, priority ranking, that sits at the top. And in this particular example, the advertiser received 76 clicks and 78 calls. So that's interesting right there, more calls than clicks. Well, the reality is, the way a result is served, you don't necessarily have to click. The phone number is there. If that is what the advertiser is looking for first and foremost, he will just pick up that call and that number and call you. He can click through, get more information on your business, and obviously from that point on decide to call. But the interesting notion here, as I mentioned earlier, is that this is very, very close to purchase intent. When an advertiser searches for something in this forum, they are pretty decided that they're going to take an action. And so there's a very high conversion rate. And just to drive the point home that this is not all about being online. This is also something that can be done in traditional media. As Leonard was saying earlier, marketing is about behavior, but luckily some of the technology just makes it much simpler to measure the value you're getting out of your campaigns. Unless your phone number is essentially your brand, there's no reason why you cannot have a call measurement study which will give you a clear sense of the value you're getting through a traditional print ad and newspaper and directories. In this case, a company from Moncton, a pizza company, I have no clue, but I've heard that their pizza is very, very good. They're generating 225 calls per month at a $1.51 cost per lead. Now, I don't know about you, but when I call for pizza, I spend way more than $1.51. It's typically 30, 40, 50 bucks. That's when it's with the family. If there's a hockey game on with the friends, it's probably quite a bit more. And $1.51 is less than what we will probably all collectively leave as tip. So that cost per lead is still very, very efficient, and we're talking about print media here. This is something that can be measured. So in closing, we've talked about quite a few things here. There's the complexity of the environment, if you will, but what I want to leave you with is that in a more complex and fast-changing paced environment, all that means is you probably need to invest a little more time in asking yourselves, what are my objectives? And you cannot let yourselves be essentially overwhelmed by the change. A lot of these things you can trial. You can basically set up an SEM campaign. It doesn't mean you manage a $1,000 a month campaign and you do it full time, but if you want to understand how to set up a campaign, how this works, set one up. You can try building a Facebook fan page. Undoubtedly, somebody in your company wants to do this and wants to experiment with this. There are several tutorials out there that explain how search works. Engage in it. Try it. You have experienced deals of the day. Does this make sense for my business? Let's try it out. So do not be afraid of trying things out. And obviously, always, always, always look at getting value for your money, so measuring, if you will. So being Yellowpages, I have to do a very, very quick positioning for our ambition is obviously to be part of that equation, to partner with you in this. We feel we have a strong solution set with multiple products, increasingly better reporting, and media account consultants that can help with this. But if nothing else, if you take one thing away from this, I would like for it to be, we want you to know more about this. We want you to be able to ask the right questions, whether it be to figure out if you want to do it yourself, have that conversation with an employee. If you're having questions with different suppliers, have those conversations. At the end of the day, if you guys know more about this and comprehend more about this, it's good for everyone. And so that is ultimately what we're trying to accomplish with this type of event. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to ask Tracy a couple of questions, but one of the key things that I got out of Tracy's presentation that I really enjoyed were a couple of things. The one is the importance of measurement. I like it when people show us actual examples, when you know exactly how much it's costing you. I really like that. And the other thing, one of the big questions I have from small business owners, and one of their biggest challenges is, if we're going to get somebody to do SEO, who do we trust? And I think there's a very good example. You know who Yellowpages are. You can trust them to guide you through this process. So I encourage you to give them that opportunity because they're going to help you. Also, another thing, just before we carry on, we're going to go straight through, just because there's a lot of people online and we don't want them to sit watching us having coffee. So we're going to go straight through till 10:30. So I've got a couple of questions, and if anybody wants, you can just go to the microphone. But I've got a couple of questions from the people online for Tracy. So this is a good question. How do you prepare or know you can cope with the demand for your product or service once people are connecting with you. So how do you prepare for that? I think this is a good problem.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question well.
So how do you prepare? So how do you prepare or know you can cope with the demand for your product or service once people start connecting with you?
So basically, the fear potentially would be if I advertise and too many people are coming in through the door, or too many people are placing orders. I mean, it's a good question. I think that ultimately this also speaks to the ability to experiment. You know, you can go out and you can try different things. You can realistically, with most of these products, you can also get a sense of the leads. So if I use SEM as an example, typically when you set up a campaign, you can get a sense of how many people will probably click to your ad, you know, what realistically would be the conversion rate. So you can actually, with a lot of these, get a sense of, you know, what the volumes would feel like. So if you're actually faced with too much demand, that's where I would argue that it's sort of a good news, bad news story. That's where you probably want to start looking at things like social media and seeing how you can use that to barter a situation where perhaps you haven't been able to offer the service, invite them to come back at a different time, but there's visibly no easy answer to that one.
Okay, so another question online. Oh, we got a question over there? Okay, let's use your offline question.
Well, my question, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So my question is, like, you know, as what I'm noticing, because I do a lot of online advertising myself, and what I'm finding is that I'm constantly in a much more diluted ocean than I was before. So my question is, how do you, as a small business, stand out? You know, when before there was like one shoemaker, now there's like 100 shoemakers. So how do you, you know, stand out as a small business?
So how do you stand out as a small business? Really using SEO?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think that this is where some of the new forums help with that, in the sense that you're right, there's less and less spots on the search page, if you will, but through social, through things like Facebook, you can create other points of presence. If you become active through Twitter, through Facebook, through Foursquare, the good news is there's a multiplication, if you will, of ways people can find you. And that's the good news, because you can always tap into a new source. You can't always and systematically be number one, if you will, in the search results. But if you turn your attention to other media, to other sources, one, that will help you with your actual ranking, so it will give you extra juice. And perhaps there's also some tweaking and fine-tuning you can do, for example, in the keywords you try to optimize for. There's always that potential. But you can also benefit from the growing traffic that is starting to build on these sites. You know, people are increasingly doing ads on Facebook specifically. Right now, it's more of an impressions game. The leads are not as strong as in other media, but vertical by vertical, it's actually becoming a better media to drive leads. So those are some of the things, and I'm certain that there are others here. Bill, who will be talking, I'm certain has additional ideas on that, who's very much a search specialist and a campaign specialist in part.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a question on that side?
Hi. I enjoyed your presentation, Tracy. I'm a little bit confused about the sponsored ads versus the organic through Yellowpages. Right now, I do my own campaign, and exactly what you said. I'm paying a lot, but I got instant results through the Yellowpages. You guys are you're gonna give me a sponsored slot.
So it depends on to be clear, and I didn't go into a lot of details about this, it depends on the product you buy. So the example I gave here was actually a sponsored placement, which is a product that you buy, which gives you access to one of the top 3 spots in a given search. And you're one of a very few or a limited number of companies that get access to that spot on rotation. So obviously what you're buying is the ability to, you know, basically rise to the top of a search, and that product is available, you know, by market and by heading. But it's not a product which is germane to a print buy or that comes built in. It's a specific online product. Does that help? I just want to make sure I understand your question.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm still not quite getting it. I'm not sure if the rest of the audience is getting it either.
Hopefully,
I'm confused about where where the Yellowpages is going to stand versus to Google. Google, again, I got those instant results. Bang, I'm 1, 2, 3, or I'm on the first page, 4 or 5 down the list. It's fantastic.
Yep.
I've got prices through you guys, and does that mean I'm going to be able to get into that first page for I guess the dollars that I'm being quoted?
So basically, when people can find Yellowpages in different ways, right? They can come directly to our site, and there's a lot of people that do that because obviously the brand is well known, and then they will go through an experience which is similar to what I was showing with the sponsored placement.
Okay.
The fact is that I was talking about SEO and how it's important to create, some link power and some juice power. YPG is an authoritative site. And one of the things we do is that we distribute content, and the fact that somebody is with us and has content, for example, on a virtual profile or a merchant page, that gives that ad, if you will, power to be found on Google. So that is actually what you might term SEO juice, which you benefit from as you have content. Not a product which gives you ranking on YP. The importance is the content, the relevance of the content, and the fact that Yellowpages is a respected and an authoritative link to Google, and therefore Google will give it stronger attribution when it returns results, and you can rise to the top or get closer to the top because you benefit from that content and from that SEO juice, so to speak.
I got you. So initially it's within the Yellowpages, and then and that's the timing that you're talking about to raise up on the organic.
Absolutely, and a lot of the traffic we get and a lot of the leads you get, some of them come from a direct search to our website. Somebody basically put our URL in. Others come from Google because of this very effect, because of our content, because we're an authoritative site. We provide visibility for you guys on Google in the SEO component. And for some of you as well, we have a product where we currently still spend into Google unlimited amounts, which will occasionally provide you with some sponsored presence within Google and other search engines.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so I think
Search engine optimization, no?
We currently have a product for search engine optimization. I'm sorry?
It's got extra on the top of
So if you want a specific search engine optimization product where we will actually help with the optimization of your site, create articles, submission, links to other products, so very much to help rank your own site, that's a different product. It is in fact a specific product offering.
Okay, and I think from a small business perspective, this is the way you got to look at it, is that Yellowpages gives you more credibility and better links. And the other one is it's like outsourcing your SEO to Yellowpages. So those are the two scenarios, and I'd encourage you to speak to them and see if they've got some options.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.